Pure Sports, the interview series continues. I'm Holden, and this week I have AP. I don't know what his first and last name is. I just call him AP. I don't even know what he does here. I'm serious. I don't know who you are, what you do. AP, how are you, my friend? What do you do at Run Pure? I don't even know.
You don't know my first and last name?
I don't know anybody's first and last name.
It's the most original name, Andrew Peterson.
I thought it was Adrian Peterson.
So, I mean, close. No, like if you look at my DraftKings name, like I signed up for DraftKings long ago when I thought you were just supposed to put your email like as your username, and so my username is apeterson8809, which is my email. So it's just hilarious.
So now everybody knows your email account, and they can just put a Yahoo or you're not a Yahoo guy. You got to be a Gmail guy. Please tell me.
I mean, who knows? I don't
want. Okay, who knows? Yeah.
It could be anything.
So what do you just handle all the money and stuff at Run Pure, right?
Oh, I mean,
what do you do?
I mean, Hoop handles a lot of the money. We kind of co-manage a lot of that stuff. Well, I mean, I do a ton of content as well. PGA Playbook, NFL stuff. I mean, managing Discord, basically everything, a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's the hours that we're putting in right now, it's pretty crazy, Holden. It's only gonna get better too. We got NBA starting up here soon.
Yeah.
It's gonna be excellent.
Well, this is just a lot of fun is what it is. Like, we're working our asses off because it's a startup, but this is what it's all about at the beginning. So my big question, a whole bunch. Let's start a little more recently. How do you know BigT? How'd you get into running this thing? Because you're one of the founders, right? Aren't you up there on the board?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, so BigT, I started talking to him, probably 3 years ago, like right when we got into it. Like my background is I started posting my research and plays on Twitter. that grew. I joined another company. I thought I just disagreed with how that company was ran and what they were doing. And so I started your DFS Playbook. And basically what happened was once COVID hit, I joined up into the CPC group, poker group. BigT invited me. We started talking a lot more. And we turned, your DFS Playbook into Run Pure Sports. It's kind of the simple story right there.
So you don't even know those guys beforehand? Like, you really didn't know BigT, you didn't know JSU, any of these guys?
I've never met them in person, actually.
You've never met either one of them in person?
No. But I talk to them every day, which is crazy. And so, like, I mean, I've been talking to BigT for forever. I didn't know Hoop before CPC. And then I started taking his money in the card tables. And, I got to know him pretty good then.
I mean, I don't even play poker. So CPC is what? Just a big poker group?
The Corona Poker Club.
Corona Poker Club.
Yep.
After the virus or the beer?
After the virus. So the CPC was created because no one had anything to do. And so there's a big poker club out there, a lot of DFS guys. And so, yeah, honestly, without COVID, I don't know if Run Pure would be here. The old company was doing fine. I don't know if it was basically a bunch of things happened. I don't want to name companies or anything like that, but it got us into a situation where, me and BigT started talking, and then it was me, him, and Hoop. And we started talking to JSU and a bunch of other people, and one thing led to another, and here's Run Pure Sports.
That's wild. It really is the way it happened. So you guys, and we're going to get into you growing up, how you got it. I think you were underage when you get into this anyways. That'll be kind of a fun story. But why is it that so many poker players are DFS players and vice versa? It just seems like I know so many guys that are into poker that play DFS.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the strategy behind it. And then also sports. I love sports growing up and everything, but it has to do something with the strategy aspect and the gambling aspect. Two things I absolutely love. And I just, naturally came up. I don't know. But I started playing poker back when I was 17 and did very well at it. And I think I started playing DFS 2015. I can't remember exactly when DraftKings when did they start? Do you remember?
Man, I've been playing before 15. I mean, I go back to Star Street days, long time ago, but I would say, I mean, at least 2013, maybe 12.
2013. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been around a while.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where I started seeing all those commercials, and then I made an account, and I'm like, oh, I could do this. I could figure it out. And it took a year or two before I really started to figure out my process. So I was just one of those, donkeys, basically giving money away playing just because I thought it was fun. I worked on my process, and that's when I started seeing success. And
Take me through your process, though. This is what I want to do as far as NFL. Like, when do you start looking at the slate? What are some of the key things in your process?
So I like to go game by game. I like to first thing I always do is look at injuries. I want to see who's in, who's out, and then I want to take a look at. I like to look at the surface DVOA numbers. Now I don't always believe them, and a lot of the times I don't believe them. And then I start to add my own biases to them. So like I'll have defensive DVOA numbers written down, and then I'll literally, almost like I'm writing an article, I'll have my own note sheet, which is like an article for myself, and then I write what I think their defense is actually, how good they are. And so, and then, you check injuries on both sides. I like looking at pace. A lot goes into it. Now, I would say my process is far better for a sport like NBA than it is for NFL. I personally believe NFL is far more variant than we all think. And I think NBA is one of the sports that is fairly predictable. Minutes, we typically know rotations. And so I've had my best success NBA regular season, basically. But so back to NFL, I think for me, it's one thing, like I'm constantly working on my process. A new thing that I've implemented is when I go to make my builds, and usually how I'm playing NFL is I have 6 main teams, and then I have 6 deviations off of those main teams. And so it could be like if I have a main team, I could do a 2-man swap onto my other team, and I layer them in different contests. So usually I roll out about 12 builds, but 2 of them are very similar, and I try to keep a really tight core. Now, one thing I've added to my process is using our tier sheet. Like if on Sunday I have our shows up, I'm watching JSU, I'm watching BigT, and then I have the tiers up, and I'm looking at, I like seeing where everyone else is at. And then I'll look at other people's cores and stuff. And now part of my process is always throwing JSU's core in because it's almost always smashing. And but I still like to get a little different, So I'll try to find a player or two to move off of. Even.
Yeah, you write the Gems article. I mean, that's a pretty big one. So if you're a Run Pure Sports subscriber, it's pretty important that you go hit that up. Don't you, man, go and do the Off the Chalk too, right?
Yeah, we do Off the Chalk. Sometimes Coop comes in on that show with us, and that's always a good time. But JT Hayes, Coop, and myself, we do the Gems. Yeah, and so my biggest thing is for everyone out there, figure out what your process is. Just write down what it is you do for research. If you don't do anything for research, write that down, and that's probably a reason why you suck. You know what I mean? So. Know what your process is and track your results. If you do those 2 things, I think you're going to see a difference in your game.
All right, we're about to roll out some monster content for NBA, okay? And I want to get in specifically to your NBA process. And really, because it's a day-to-day thing. This is not the NFL where we're sitting here looking at the lineups on Monday. We got something by Friday. Coming up with our cores Saturday, and then we're doing late tweets if we have to. What is your day? Now you have a real job too here at Run Pure Sports, but what's your day look like for the NBA? Let's say this is day 5 of the NBA, new slate, 10-game slate. We'll just throw it out there. From the morning to tip off, what is it?
Yeah, so it starts off with JSU and I. We do the playbook. He typically does the player rankings. I do the write-up, so the game-by-game write-up. And then me and him usually we'll chat. We'll get on Zoom or we'll do a quick call, and we'll talk about it. We'll make sure we agree on everything. And honestly, that's where my research starts, is right there, is I go through game by game. One thing that I like to look at, I like to make sure I fully understand what the rotations are. So rotations is just another way of looking at minutes. I think NBA coaches get set in a routine. If you think of like Coach Bud, he likes a very wide rotation, a lot of players, and he doesn't like to give a lot of his players minutes. So that's something that we know. Whereas, we saw like the Rockets run a really tight rotation. And so those are things that I look at, and they're things that are very predictable. The next thing I love to look at is pace in basketball, whether it's college or NBA. Higher pace game is going to create more opportunities. So that's just another thing. And I go through each game, I make notes, I do the write-up and all of that. But after that, I think what the playbook does is it creates a good base up until lock. Now, the last thing with NBA that we need to really focus on and monitor is late breaking news. And that's where Twitter comes up. So, I got TweetDeck up. I got all the beat writers tagged. And literally the alerts will come in. And usually you can see them faster than something like Labs, NBA Fantasy Labs. They do a good job, though. So, like, if you don't want to track all the different beat writers, just pull up Fantasy Labs, the injury report. And I think if you do those things, you're going to give yourself a slight edge over the field, because then it's just understanding how to adjust, when we get some crazy news up until lock.
So basically, you better have a Twitter account. You better have at least a group with NBA beat writers. That's
or
it.
run peer. I mean, one thing that we're going to add on is an up to lock show for premium members.
Yes.
So whether it's me and JSU, or we're going to try to get it so it's a cash guy and a tournament guy. I'm a tournament guy. Mangoob, totally.
He is. Mangoob. Oh, am I going to crush him today? That's it. The AP's calling him Mangoob. Man,
oh man,
this is beautiful. Boob or goob? Which one did you say? Man, boob.
So I was tilting because Bronson Burgoon is going to miss the cut, and he was a punt that I had in golf, and so Burgoon, I was just looking over here and I saw he bogeyed a hole or something. Yeah. And Mangoon is what we call it.
I kind of like Man Boob more, so I'm going to just say that you're talking shit about him. And that'll be fun. We'll get a rivalry going between the two of you. So yeah, from what I understand, I'm doing a ton of NBA stuff with you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. It's part of the reason why you guys brought me on. We got NFL, we got NBA, we got so many different things that we're doing here. College hoops. We got our partnership with Monkey Knife Fight now, so I'm looking forward to doing some player props there, a whole bunch of player props. So a lot going on. Okay.
You want to hear something awesome about? Well, actually, it's not awesome for me, but I'm so glad we got JSU on our team. There's been 3 or 4, it honestly might be 4 times where I'm sweating 100K in NBA, and the man that jumps over me at the very end, JSU, 3 or 4 times. It's
seriously?
Hilarious. Oh yeah, going back, I think a year and a half now. No, I did fine. I finished second in one of them. I finished, third and fourth, but we got the GOAT. I think I'm pretty good at NBA, but I think he's better. It is what it is. I think he's phenomenal.
So when you guys are doing your Zoom call, have you ever thought about just kind of getting him off track on one of his plays so that you can have an advantage? Because I mean, seriously, if he's costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's time to forget about, put down your friendship and your partnership. It's time to get dirty.
No, man. No, I mean, I couldn't do that now.
Why?
I know what his core is now. So I would rather know what his core is and where he's at, so that I can just play it.
This is a cutthroat business, AP. I mean, this is why you finished second, because you're not willing. Because I'll guarantee you, he takes your call and he says, "This is how I'm going to beat the guy every single day." He's vicious.
One of the times it was, do you remember? I think it was the Golden State Warriors against Timberwolves game, and D'Angelo Russell, with time expiring, hits a turnaround, no-looker, 3-point jumper to send it to OT. And I'm downstairs in my basement, in my boxers with a big glass of whiskey trying to fade OT in that game. It goes to OT. I still had a shot, but it ended quickly. And JSU, the GOAT, ended up taking it down.
Yeah, it must be awesome.
Whenever we talk, he'll, like, if we're on Zoom like this, me and him, he'll bring that background up on Zoom just to tilt me. the background of D'Angelo Russell
That's
like, taking that shot.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where that comes from.
Well, this is Holden celebration week because I beat JSU and Derrick Henry last week. He said it wasn't good. I said it was good. Like I said, I was 2-50 against the guy. Now I'm 3-50. You take every victory you can against the guy. It doesn't matter if you're 47 games under 500. You just brag about it. Now, what about Big T? Like, what kind of rivalry do you have with Big T? Is there anything there with Big T? Does he even come close to your expertise in NBA?
I mean, definitely no rivalry with Big T. So like Big T, I got to give him a shout out. I always struggled with MLB. That was my one weak spot in DFS was MLB. If we go back 2-3 years ago, I was a losing baseball player. And so I started picking his brain. I started talking to Big T a lot more. And that's where I learned MLB basically from him. And I just kind of embraced the variance that is MLB. And just, anyone could hit a home run on any given night. Fade the really chalky batters because over the long haul, it's just going to be better. Little things like that. And actually, in MLB, it was always one of my weaker sports. I think it's a lot better now, but it's also the one where I had my biggest sweat and worst beat. Biggest sweat and worst beat my DFS career by far.
Really? I'm trying to think of my worst one.
We always remember our worst beats, don't we?
Yeah, I think it was this year. This year for me, because I had one of JSU's core, and then I just had a ridiculous. Everybody was hitting, and I was like top 3 probably to win $50K. It was like $100 thing here. I was a top 3, and then like the last 15 minutes it just went to hell. And I think I finished top 20. But sweating things out, it's not good for your heart. Like I always used to think that it's not a big deal. If you have heart issues, you can't play DFS if you're good. I feel like you can die from it. Agree or disagree?
I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, I would agree to some standpoint for sure, depending on what the sweat is. But, at the end of the day, there's always the tilt factor that sets in. But once you learn to take a deep breath, you understand there's going to be another slate, and you stay disciplined with the bankroll, you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
you'll take the emotions out of it.
You're crushing like a gallon of whiskey a night. So obviously you're doing something because you don't want to sweat it out.
That might be true. That's just because whiskey's good.
That's a lot of whiskey. That is a lot of whiskey. So you got into this when you were 17 with poker and DFS. You were illegal. How did you do it?
Yeah, I started playing poker with some buddies, and that's when we learned about online poker. And what was the first one? I think it was Party Poker.
Poker Star.
You were a poker player, right?
No.
So
that's my whole thing. Is like I am by far and away the dumbest person on here, and I don't play poker. So that's 2 major disadvantages I have.
So I think it was like 15 or 16 when my parents got me a bank account. They put $200 in, and
wow,
that was so I was mowing yards and different stuff like that, and I made a deposit $50 onto Party Poker, and I ended up getting second in this $5 tournament for $700, and then like a few days later, I ended up winning like $3,000 when I was 17, and so. My bank statement shows up, in the mail, and my parents were like, "Where's this money coming from?" They thought I was selling drugs or something.
Did
like
they really?
That. Oh yeah, 100% they did. And so I showed them kind of what I was doing, and they told me not to do it anymore. And then when I was in college, I ended up winning a satellite to the Ultimate Bet Caribbean Open. And I took my parents because they were still skeptical about poker. I think I was 21 at the time. And so it was a $5,000 buy-in entry fee, plus they gave you $3,000 cash, travel, all of that. So I took my folks to Aruba, for this event. And I ended up playing for about 4 or 5 days, and I got 27th in that event. So, I mean, it was a good experience. It really showed like my folks that there's skill involved in this, and they stopped questioning it and everything. And So no, it was a good experience for sure.
But how did you legally get the money? Like, this is, if you're making 3,000. Oh, so you didn't, it wasn't until you were 18 that you started playing online, right?
No, I played when I was 17 because they didn't. You could just put your date of birth as anything at first.
They didn't even check?
No, they didn't check anything at the start. Yeah. Oh, it wasn't regulated or anything like that. I mean, Full Tilt ended up being like a big Ponzi scheme. Like the amount of money, like when they talk about Black Friday or whatever back in 2011, that I ended up like I had $5,000 still in my account that I'll never see again ever. It's she gone. And but yeah, they didn't have enough money in their accounts to cover customer deposits. So that's why they call it I think Black Friday was back in 2011.
Oh, I remember.
I mean, it was brutal. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But that's like with poker is where I learned bankroll management, because I ended up like when I was, I think 22, I won one of the biggest amounts of money that I've ever won. It was right around 66,000. I got second in a $33 rebuy tournament that Full Tilt was running. And I got owned pretty hard after that. And I learned bankroll management pretty quick. I started playing pot limit Omaha, and I went right to the 25-50 stakes. So if you know 25-50, so 25 is a small blind, 50 is the large blind. I mean, the swings in that game are, $10,000 to $20,000 at a time. And so I quickly learned bankroll management, and I quickly learned that you may think you're the man, but there's usually someone a little bit better. And so you always gotta respect, who you're playing with and who you're playing against.
All right, let's talk about bankroll for a minute. I've been very open about my bankroll. I mean, in betting, my unit is $100, which is very, very low for the guys here. And in DFS on a Sunday is $800. So basically mine is, now it's more than most of the players do, but compared to you guys, it's absolutely nothing. It's chump change. So let's talk about bankroll then. Do you need money to make money in this? Right. So I'm using this as like a second gig at the end of the year. I used to pay for my vacations, my family vacations, 2 of them from doing this on winning years. So how much do you think you need to, is there a minimum amount of money that you need to put in to be successful at this? Because my bankroll right now is not going to make me rich. Like, what do you have to do to get into this full time and really devote? What kind of capital do you need to devote?
I think one, that's such a good question. I think one thing you need to do is set an expectation for yourself and embrace it. Like, I understand I can't do what Hoop's doing. Okay. Well, like I already know that, and it is what it is. And so I have my own process. I guarantee you, if you look at what I'm putting in every week, especially for NFL, it's not anything too crazy at all. It's maybe just a little bit above. So I love focusing on the 3 max tournaments, the 153 max. Mm-hmm. I'll usually max those. There's usually a 200 single entry, then 100 single entry, 50 single entry. I usually reserve all of those. And then there's a $33 5 max. I always reserve that. And that's kind of how I create my format. So like I have my 6 main builds, which is usually all the 153 maxes. And then I got the 33 5 max and then the 200. And that's kind of how I create my builds. But if you think about that, and if you add up those amounts, that puts me right around 1,500, I think, to 1,300. So I mean, it's nothing. I mean, that's a good amount of volume, but it's nothing like some of these other big cash game players are doing. But I play tournaments. I'm going for the big win. So I'm trying to. I'm really trying to deviate from some of those cash plays. And who the guy that's really helped me with that is I've been stroking him all show, but JSU, just listening to him on the Friday night show. And then I always have your guys show up on Sunday, and that's just part of my process. And I look at my own builds and I evaluate it. I'm like, okay, what am I missing here? Like, where do I need to make a pivot? I try to basically get in, side of these other guys' head to see what they're doing. And then I really start to make some of my own decisions.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody else that could have convinced me to come over here but JSU. Like, that was the thing. We do our show if you haven't checked it out yet for NFL, and I think we're gonna do one NBA, but we do it usually from 11:30 to 12:45 Eastern. But
I think to like, if you truly want to, I mean, you got to have some money, but like, I think if you truly want to work on a process, commit $1,000 to your account, track it, and know what tournaments you're going to get into. Like, and you know, if you're watching this right now and you want to do this, send me a DM. I'll show you what contest to get in. There's a $15 single entry. There's a $15 three max. During NBA, there's always this $20 three max tournament that.
why don't we do this then? Why don't we just come up? We should probably start this. I mean, this is the other thing. Like, you and I have never really brainstormed before, but isn't that worth like a little chart? Especially for NFL, as we're doing it just once a week. And then NBA, how consistent are you in NBA with the same exact tournaments you're playing?
Real consistent, at least last year. But also, if I'm running bad, we all run bad. I run bad. I've had some really bad runs. You got to know when to dial it back too. And so there's a lot of feel to it. And so like what I do is, if I'm not running good, I'm going to take a step back from, like, say, the 555. That's usually like a 50K first or 100K first. And I'm going to focus on maybe the 153 max. If I'm still running bad, I'll dial back again. There's a $100 single entry. I'll do that. I'll lock in maybe the $20 three max. I'll max that out. And my goal is, when I'm running bad like that, I want a slate where I just see green. I don't care how it comes. I want to see a green screen, because I kind of envision that as like seeing the ball, like a true shooter in the NBA, seeing the ball go through the net. Once they see the ball go through the net, you typically see them get into a better rhythm. I think there's a lot of truth with that with DFS too. And so I really try to understand where I'm at. Like right now, I feel like I had a good hit in a showdown, and man, I'm having a nice little week right now. I got good sweats going with PGA. And so I feel like things are starting to heat up. And so you got to just understand where you're at. I think if you go back 2 weeks, I was running pretty cold. And so I always try to understand where I'm at and try to take advantage of. If I'm running hot, I do like to increase things. If I'm running cold, I like to dial back. It's pretty simple. It's just having that discipline to be able to do it. Yeah,
it's not easy to do it either. It really is tough to stay true to it. So for me, like I love single entries. I'll usually play like the higher entry things, like the 200,000 entrants, lower $3-5 tournaments. But my go-to is the 500K SPY. I think that's $100. The red zone is a $50 single entry. That's kind of fun. I tried the power sweep a couple of times. That's a 3 entry max. Somewhere between like $50 and $150 is kind of my sweet spot right now. And then I'll usually come up with 5 to 6 lineups a week. But what I'll do is take those lineups and just kind of mix and match and throw another 5 or 6 in that 3-man. So how many lineups are you making per week?
Yeah, so NFL, it's the 6 main and then the 6 pivots. So right around 12 usually. NBA, usually 3 to 4. I'm not making a ton of and JSU is the same, which is interesting. Yeah, we have a really similar strategy when it comes. And honestly, the reason we'll be able to do the up until lock show is I tried the 150 max with NBA. It's not my style. I'm not, some people are good with the optimizers, like Big T, he's good with it. I'm a hand build guy. That's part of my fun too. You gotta, this has to be fun. It can't just be boring. And so hand building for me is fun. I'm not going to hand build, 150 lineups. That's just, it's stupid.
You can't. There's not enough time. I love it. Actually, besides for winning money, that's my second favorite part is building the lineups. Exactly. Right? Because I'm with you. Like I use a pen still. I use paper still. Like people don't realize that. Maybe it's because I'm old. But how old are you? Like 30? You're a young guy.
34.
Okay, so you're still young. But like I talked to Title and Rubio. I don't think those guys would ever build a hand lineup. They don't even know what a pen is. No. They don't know what a pen is and paper. What do you do with pens and paper?
So like my mom plays. It's funny. And she actually, she does. She loves it. She loves to gamble. She's good too. She played poker too back when I think it's part of what she likes to be involved with what her kids do, and she likes to support Run Peer, obviously. But no, she enjoys the hand building part too. And I mean, she's always bugging me too. Like, is this build good? You know, what do you think about this? But it's funny. She had a legit sweat at 100K. And me and Hoop were both like sweating her. And it was in that, it was a PGA event. It was in that, like, the contest, $10 buy-in, 150,000 people. She puts in 5 entries. And on Sunday, down the stretch, she's like hovering between 7th place and 14th place, and just is blowing up my phone all day. Like, just, but it was fun. She loves it, and, you know, it's good. But she doesn't know how to use an optimizer, you know. She just, you know, hand builds. So is what it is. We all have our own process. If you're good with the optimizer, use the one that we have. You know, I think it's phenomenal.
I don't use optimizers. I just don't do it. The only time, you know what I do? Cash. My cash game lineup, I use an optimizer with my core. So that's it.
That's a good point. I do use it to find out where the cash guys are going to be. So here's another thing I do. Every week I go and I plug in Hoops core, and then I run what the optimal is, or what our optimal is. And then I go in there and I change the projections too, if I think they're off slightly, to maybe see kind of where the cash guys are going to be. And that's part of my process too. I like knowing where they're at and what their build is going to look like, so that I know how to think about being different in tournaments.
I mean, that's fascinating. All right. So I want to go back to when you're 17 and your parents found out that you're making money gambling. And so what did they say to you? Did they specifically say, hey, are you dealing? What are you doing? What is going on?
No, they said they talked, and they were like, they couldn't figure it out because they didn't. So, like, here's the thing. Back in the day, those like when I got paid out or cashed out money, it was coming from like India and, like, you know, like basically, you know, overseas, and like Dubai, all that stuff, like all the transactions, none of them were in the US. And so they couldn't figure out what it was. And no one was Googling stuff back then. I mean, this is, you know, a long time, at least my parents weren't. And so they just came up and asked me, they're like, what is this? And I just told them, I said, oh, I've just been playing poker. I'm like, I put in $50 and, you know, I won 700. And then, you know, I ended up, you know, winning $3,000. And they were just, I don't know. They didn't know what to say, but they told me to stop. They're like, you know, this can't be good. Gambling underaged. I know my dad was really, really concerned. He's a by the book type of guy. And so it was, and he's never gambled in his life. My mom loves it. My dad has never gambled. So, and he knows I do every day. It's funny.
How did your mom get into it? Because she's got to be upper 50s, low 60s at this point. So how long ago did she get into it, and how did she get into it? Or was she doing it before you were born?
Like, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. Like, me and her used to play chess all the time. So that's kind of a strategy game. And then she just started playing poker online. And, you know, she was actually pretty good at cards. You know, I would put her in the ring against, like, BigT, definitely against JSU. He's not a good poker player. But she definitely knows how to play cards. And so, yeah, you know, but my dad, nope, nothing. I think we were in Vegas once and he put $1 in a slot machine, and, you know, he just looked at me and he's like, there, I've gambled. I'm done. I don't need to do it anymore.
That is fascinating. So where are we going from here? We got NBA coming up. Golf is coming to an end. NFL, we go strong right through the playoffs. There's plenty of NFL left. I mean, what do we got? 5 regular season weeks, and then another 3 or 4 in the playoffs.
When does MLB start back up?
And that's, I mean, we're talking February, March, April. So we still got like at least almost 4 months.
Did you ever say what your worst beat was?
My worst beat?
Or betting?
Oh, yeah, and I can't remember the game. Here's the deal. I used to do a 6-hour weekend show on MLB Network Radio, and we used to just go around to all the games and have a good time. And I was betting. This has got to be like maybe 05 or 06. And I bet on the illegal books, which I won't do anymore. You know, we moved out to Colorado. It's legal. There's no reason to go for the illegal books. It's so much better. You get promos and it's legal and you're getting paid out on time. William Hill sucks. Don't ever use them. But so I had a total in that it was like 10. I thought the Yankees and the Blue Jays were in this, but then I looked at their game log and it wasn't, the game was never played. So there was a total of 10, like 9.5. I think it was the Yankees scored like 9 runs in the first. There was no scoring the rest of the game. And with baseball, it's a slow burn.
Right.
It's just, second inning. By the 6th inning, you're freaking out. That was a horrible beat. That was just, and I stopped betting baseball for years. I didn't even bother. And now it's probably the sport that I'm best at betting. I'd say NFL player props, baseball are the 2 best things I'm at it. And then March Madness when that comes around. I'm looking forward to that. But so, NBA, I need to step it up. And I think just being around you guys is going to
– We got you, man. I'm confident with that. And that's where the playbook came from. So that's I started posting the NBA playbook like in 2017 or something on Twitter. And it's, spiraled into what it is now. It's awesome.
That's beautiful.
My worst beat, it's such a brutal one. It was baseball. So I wasn't even going to play the slate to begin with. And then my son and daughter were at this camp and they were going to stay the night. Well, it was a week-long camp type of deal or whatever. Well, he got sick. He had a fever. I had to go pick him up. And we had I wasn't going to play because we had plans with a lot of friends that night. All of those got canceled because the kids were sick. And I'm like, well, I'm definitely going to be playing this MLB slate. And they had an 888 going on, 200K to first. It was a really nice slate. I didn't have a lot of time to research. And so this was when we were the playbook company. And I forget who I had working the content that day. But I just take a quick look, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get real risky. I played guys like Chance Cisco at catcher, and he hits 2 bombs at 1% owned. And so like I'm in this. I've one entry into it, and halfway through the night, I'm like, I'm hanging out in first place, and I got a massive lead over everyone. And Big T was, we weren't a company or anything like that, but Big T had an outside chance of trumping where I was at, and he was blowing up my Twitter. He's like, dude, let's split some equity. Let's cover all the bases here. But I knew my position was far better than his. And so I was like, no way. And the only game left on the slate was the A's. And they were in the bottom of the 7th inning. Uh-huh. And I'm still way ahead of everyone. I forget who it was. It was like Chipotle addict or his brother, Papa, whatever, were just below me. And Mark Canha, who wasn't owned really by anyone except for, I think, Papa Gates, hits a home run. And that drops me to second. And then when we get to, so like I was still winning 100K in second. We're at the top of the 9th, and it was a full count, 2 outs. We just needed the inning to be over because the A's were ahead, and they end up walking. I just had to avoid like a walk or a hit of any kind on the last batter up, and it was like the worst ump ever. He misses 2 strike calls, ends up walking this guy, and so that walk cost me $60,000. And I dropped to 3rd place for 40K. And then the next batter, it was like literally 3 pitches, 3 strikes, and the game was over. And so it was just one of those like, boom, done, game over. Papa Gates or whoever jumps over me. And so I went from like, I had to be a pretty heavy favorite to take down 200K to winning, 40. Can't complain, but still, that was one of the coolers that I've had for sure. All the other ones involved JSU. This one did not involve JSU.
All right, last thing for you, because we got to get out of here. I got the cash show to do here pretty soon. And if you're watching this in the middle of summer, you're going, what the hell is the cash show? It's an NFL show. Anyways, you have a financial background. How'd you get into the finance industry? How has that translated?
Yeah, I got in actually so I was an intern at a financial firm managing money, working on like different stock strategies during the recession. And so I was just always into that. I was in the stock club at my college where we're, managing real money. And I just got into it and had a lot of success early. You know, the only thing is it's kind of boring. It isn't that interesting. It's not hard to manage money. You know, there's so many tools and research, you know, out there. It kind of ended up getting boring, but I still have my, honestly, like I've done all the work for like a CFP designation. I just don't want to sit for the test. It's just brutal. I mean, it's like a 4 or 5, maybe 6-hour test or something like that, like 2-day type of deal. And so I'm just like, screw that. And I paid a lot of money for that course. I paid like 10 grand, which is just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb, but I'm many years removed from that. But I still carry my financial advisory designation, and I manage like my top 10 clients, and that's about it. And then otherwise, I'm dedicating, you know, all of my time to run Pier right now.
I lied. How did you end up in Nebraska? Are you from there?
Yeah, from Nebraska, born and raised. Yep. Huge
Exciting.
Chiefs fan. The Nebraska Huskers. It's been a struggle for a long time.
Hey man, your boys with Tom Osborne used to come into Kansas and whoop our asses every year. So I don't mind seeing you guys suck. I'm happy you do, actually. It's wonderful. Do you like corn?
Nah, not really.
Because you've been around it too much, right?
I don't know. I've never really liked it that much.
Yeah, it's all they got.
It's not that good.
No, I mean, sweet corn's good, but not the stuff.
Yeah.
You don't grow sweet corn in Nebraska, do you? It's just like corn.
I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I know nothing about farming or anything.
How is that possible? You're from Nebraska.
No, I'm the least handy guy ever. Like, you don't want me doing any of that stuff. Like,
haven't you ever wanted to move from Nebraska? Have you ever wanted to live somewhere else?
Yeah, we about 6-7 years ago. So like, my area code on my phone number, like if I ever send you a text, it's 317. So we lived out in Indiana for a year.
I mean, there's a real upgrade, Indiana. Like, haven't you ever wanted to move to a big city, or you're just not that guy?
Indianapolis? I mean, that's a good sized city.
It's not a big city.
No, my sister lives in LA, and I have no desire to move to a big city.
No, not at
LA.
all.
It is nice here. It's quiet. It's people are friendly, and I like that. I'm not a big city guy. I'm not like go out and have to always be doing stuff. I'm always, you know, I hate going to games because we got work to do, you know. I would never go to like an NFL game on a Sunday. That would be the absolute worst. I couldn't even imagine doing that. I don't even like going to Nebraska games. There's just too much work to be done.
Too much. Well, it's not that. It's just better to watch on TV. At this 100%. Point, honestly, the only three sports I've enjoyed going to over the years: college basketball games, and I love taking my kids to college basketball, especially Air Force. I don't live too far. Nobody talks about Air Force. Small stadium, terrific atmosphere, college hoops, NHL, and then some baseball games. Besides for that, I really don't get excited about going to any of the other sports. Not the NBA unless it's the playoffs. It's tough for me to get into the NBA in person unless it's the playoffs. Plus, I was stuck in Washington, D.C. You talk about the worst NBA fans out there. I'm sorry if you know me from D.C. They're horrible. It's just boring.
NBA fans.
Yeah, not good.
Not an NBA game, because I don't have that around here. So like, if I'm on a trip somewhere and it's during NBA season, I've always tried to get to a game because it doesn't really interfere with things if I'm already on a trip. But
all right, we did it. We went through a episode of this without talking about losing virginity, drugs, any of that stuff. We did wonderful.
This was tamed down compared to BigT and JSU.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're an upstanding member of the community. You know, we don't want to besmirch you. You know, people know I'm a degenerate. I'm not a degenerate because I think that's a horrible term. Because people that gamble, that wager and bet, this is the one thing. Oh, I'm a degenerate. Don't say that. Because we're trying to change the image of the industry. That it's not a bunch of greasy guys that have just been sitting in a sports book that are 300 pounds. Okay, that's the first thing. I don't even know where I was going. AP, wonderful talk.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, very good. For AP, I'm Holden. Keep running pure.